5 a.m. and the bedroom door slammed so violently it startled me awake, heart hammering like a drum in my chest. The overhead light pierced the darkness of my room, exposing my frazzled nerves. My son, Owen, stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight, eyes sharp and demanding. "Mom, get up! Make juice and clean Naomi's room. Now!" The words struck me like ice. I blinked, struggling to form a coherent response. What? I croaked, my voice still wrapped in sleep. "Right now," he repeated, sharper this time, as though emphasizing the urgency of a command I had no choice but to obey. "Naomi needs to film her morning routine and she needs energy. Don't drag your feet. That's your job." He turned, leaving a trail of expectation hanging in the air like a storm cloud. My body, heavy with years and shock, trembled. This was my home, my sanctuary, and yet I had been wrenched from sleep to serve a daughter-in-law I barely recognized. 8 months ago, I had opened my door to them with love. I had imagined brief support, a temporary arrangement. What I didn't foresee was how quickly temporary would stretch, morphing into a daily demand that chipped away at my peace. My name is Nelly Watkins. I'm 70, a retired head nurse who had finally settled into quiet mornings after a lifetime of service. After my husband, Henry, passed, my house was my fortress, my garden a sanctuary, and my tea time with church friends a little slice of earned calm. But when Owen and Naomi arrived with their 4 matching suitcases, I realized my life had changed in a way I could never have predicted. They claimed misfortune, a lost apartment, failed careers, and I, a mother who had always believed in giving, believed them. The first week, they were polite, even helpful. Naomi would wash a dish or two. Owen mowed the lawn. I felt needed in a way that reminded me of my younger years, of my 43-year marriage, of the caregiving I had always done. But slowly, gratitude thinned and requests multiplied. Naomi handed me a Whole Foods list, organic, gluten-free, Himalayan salted, 2 pages long, almond milk, vanilla unsweetened, of course. And while I paid, she smiled politely, her 732 followers probably witnessing her wellness lifestyle online. The absurdity of it didn't fully register at first. I thought, perhaps naively, that this was just part of helping family. By the 3rd month, temporary had become routine. Owen's computer rig blazed with neon lights, mining cryptocurrency in a guest room that now hummed like a nightclub. Naomi had converted my sunroom into a content studio, ring lights glaring, cameras watching. The bills skyrocketed. My electricity soared from $273 to $841. And I tiptoed through my own home, afraid to disturb the market analysis that Owen claimed required absolute silence. I vacuumed at dawn and dusk, carefully avoiding any noise that might disrupt their new empire. It was 5 a.m. once again, and the room felt smaller, colder. The pounding on my door shook me like a child, my pulse racing with panic. "Mom, wake up!" Owen's voice demanded. There was no softness, no apology, only command. I wrapped my robe tighter and obeyed, moving through the kitchen in a fog of disbelief. Eggs Benedict, celery juice, rituals of service that had nothing to do with love anymore. Naomi barely noticed, absorbed in her phone, adjusting ring lights, critiquing the plate I had spent precious minutes preparing. My existence had been reduced to silent, unpaid labor. But clarity brings power. I had spent decades caring for others, putting their needs above my own, and now, finally, I saw a way to protect myself. I reached for the phone and called Dolores, my friend, my confidant, my legal eagle. "Dolores, I need your help, and it has to be legal," I said, voice calm but steady. Within an hour, she arrived, briefcase in hand, a force of efficiency and resolve. Together, we reviewed the receipts, the Bali itinerary, the evidence of exploitation. "You've been paying their bills, Nelly. This ends now," she said, firmly, squeezing my hand for courage. In 2 hours, we drafted a legally airtight eviction notice, notarized and ready to be filed. Sheriff Tom Reynolds, a friend of the family, agreed to oversee the process if needed. Dolores advised caution. Let them feel the shift. Let them sense uncertainty. Don't confront them yet. The power of preparation was intoxicating. I had never felt so steady in years. That evening, I stopped cooking. The kitchen was silent, a small rebellion against months of manipulated routines. Owen emerged, confused, eyes darting around the house. "Mom, are we eating?" he asked cautiously. "I made myself a sandwich," I replied without looking up. The tension was palpable. He realized the dynamics were shifting. For the first time, the comfort of control was not his. Naomi's subtle criticisms and Owen's commanding tone had lost their grip. The balance of power, once tilted entirely against me, was tilting back. The house, my sanctuary, was beginning to breathe again. Day 2, the laundry remained undone. Day 3, the atmosphere shifted palpably. They moved like cautious intruders, unsure of their footing. I watched, heart steady, as the spell of entitlement began to falter. Owen checked the humming computer, looking for excuses, for a crack to exploit, but I offered none. I existed on my terms, and the first sparks of liberation began to ignite.
But clarity brings power. I had spent decades caring for others, putting their needs above my own, and now finally, I saw a way to protect myself. I reached for the phone and called Dolores, my friend, my confidant, my legal eagle. "Dolores, I need your help, and it has to be legal," I said, voice calm but steady. Within an hour, she arrived, briefcase in hand, a force of efficiency and resolve. Together, we reviewed the receipts, the Bali itinerary, the evidence of exploitation. "You've been paying their bills, Nelly. This ends now," she said firmly, squeezing my hand for courage. Owen emerged, confused, eyes darting around the house. "Mom, are we eating?" he asked cautiously. "I made myself a sandwich," I replied without looking up. The tension was palpable. He realized the dynamics were shifting. For the first time, the comfort of control was not his. Naomi's subtle criticisms and Owen's commanding tone had lost their grip. The balance of power, once tilted entirely against me, was tilting back. The house, my sanctuary, was beginning to breathe again. Day 2, the laundry remained undone. Day 3, the atmosphere shifted palpably. They moved like cautious intruders, unsure of their footing. I watched, heart steady, as the spell of entitlement began to falter. Owen checked the humming computer, looking for excuses, for a crack to exploit, but I offered none. I existed on my terms, and the first sparks of liberation began to ignite. As the evening progressed, conversation flowed with polite laughter and superficial warmth. Owen attempted to steer discussions toward their hardships and my unwavering support, using the presence of family as leverage. "We want to show appreciation," he said. "Just a small dinner." The trap was obvious. Family would be witnesses to their performance, cementing their narrative of gratitude. Yet I remained unreadable, a calm surface concealing the storm of preparation that had been quietly set into motion. Then the pivotal moment arrived. Owen leaned forward, attempting to manipulate the room with his words. "Mom, since we're staying a bit longer, we thought of a way this could benefit everyone," he began, voice smooth and confident.
Naomi chimed in, honeyed and rehearsed, suggesting that I move into the basement for her content studio. The room fell into stunned silence. Sarah's fork paused midair. Mike's eyes narrowed in disbelief. The audacity was breathtaking. My heart did not race. My voice did not shake. The years of patient endurance, the months of silent humiliation, had honed a clarity that now guided every word I would speak. I reached into my cardigan pocket and laid the first receipt on the table. Chanel, $3,200. Naomi's face drained of color. The second envelope followed. Bali itinerary, $8,000. I spoke slowly, each word deliberate, each syllable sharpened like ice. $11,000 for luxury and indulgence, yet not a cent toward groceries, electricity, or the household bills I have been paying. Silence enveloped the room, thick and heavy. Every mask, every act, shattered in the quiet weight of accountability. Owen attempted to justify, to rationalize, but the floor was no longer his. I continued, voice calm but unyielding, describing the indignities, the 5 a.m. wake-up calls, the forbidden vacuuming, the electricity bills inflated by his digital ventures. Naomi tried to interject, but the steel in my tone froze her words. The room was mine, as it had always been. Yet now I reclaimed it, fully, legally, morally, and emotionally.
I placed the heavy, cream-colored envelope with the county seal directly in front of Owen's plate. The eviction notice, notarized yesterday and filed with Sheriff Reynolds that morning, lay atop the receipts, the Chanel bag and Bali itinerary, like a final verdict. The silence that followed was absolute, a weight pressing into the room, immobilizing everyone. Naomi's eyes brimmed with tears, but they were not of remorse. They were the fury of someone caught, someone exposed, someone confronted with consequences they had refused to acknowledge. Owen stared at the envelope as if it might spontaneously vanish, the certainty of his manipulation dissolving before him. "You're kicking us out," he whispered, disbelief lacing every syllable. His voice, once confident and commanding, was now small, fragile, unsure. I looked at him calmly, my 70 years giving me the steadiness to not flinch, to not rise to their provocations. 30 days, I suggest you start packing. I turned and left the dining room, letting the sound of my footsteps echo through the house, leaving them among the ruins of their performance. Behind me, Mike's voice roared, sharp and unwavering, calling Owen names I had never heard him speak. Sarah cried, not for Owen, but for the betrayal she had witnessed, for the audacity of their entitlement, and for the strength it took to finally reclaim justice. The 30 days that followed were both the longest and shortest of my life. Owen and Naomi did not leave quietly. They tried guilt first, tearful phone calls to relatives, stories of hardship and abandonment. But the receipts had traveled further than they could manipulate, spreading through the family, making their deception visible, undeniable. Social media offered Naomi a last attempt at defense. A carefully filtered post appeared, portraying her as wounded, innocent, abandoned by her own mother. But screenshots of receipts, the Chanel bag, and the Bali itinerary spread like wildfire. 6 hours later, the post was gone. Her account deleted entirely. The illusion of control shattered.
Inside the house, the atmosphere changed immediately. The weight of entitlement lifted. Rooms felt lighter, air easier to breathe. Owen's computer hummed faintly in the background, unused, unnecessary. The expensive rig that had dominated the guest room, the endless streams of cryptocurrency, were no longer driving the household into debt. They packed their designer luggage and electronics in silence, each box a small testament to a life unearned, a fantasy dismantled. By day 30, precisely at noon, they loaded the last box into the rental truck. Owen paused at the door, perhaps seeking one last word, one last attempt at manipulation, but none came. The truck drove away, carrying with it both their possessions and the weight of their pretenses. I moved through my home in quiet victory, checking locks, ensuring my sanctuary was once again mine. The locksmith, Tom Reynolds' nephew, gave a small discount and a hug, sensing the justice enacted. My master bedroom, once a contested space, was reborn. The soft mint green walls, fresh flowers, and Henry's photo restored peace to a room that had been the stage of intrusion and entitlement. I felt the freedom that comes from reclaiming one's own space, the deep, calming satisfaction of having boundaries respected and enforced. 2 weeks later, Dolores and I flew to Italy. The money that might have vanished into Owen and Naomi's lifestyle remained with me, used for experiences that replenished the soul rather than drained it. Florence and Venice became playgrounds of laughter, pasta cheaper than Naomi's kale and yet infinitely more satisfying, and moments of joy that reaffirmed life after 70. Meanwhile, reality, with its sharp, unforgiving teeth, caught up with them. Savings evaporated, the fantasy collapsed, and the hard lessons of accountability took root.
Owen and Naomi's world, once built on illusion and entitlement, unraveled fast. Their savings, carefully hoarded and yet spent recklessly on designer items and luxurious getaways, vanished within 3 months. The math was brutal. Rent, utilities, insurance, groceries. They suddenly became real, unavoidable responsibilities. Owen, whose hands had known only the refinement of office work and digital deals, now developed calluses, hauling merchandise at Home Depot, loading and unloading heavy boxes day after day. Naomi traded her curated online persona for reality, working as a hotel receptionist on night shifts, standing on her feet for 8 hours. No ring lights, no filters, no applause. They experienced, for the first time, the dignity of earning honestly. The hollow glamour of social media likes and staged wellness content evaporated, leaving only accountability and self-reliance. Life humbled them. They discovered the truth I had always known. Money must be earned, and character is forged through responsibility. Instagram fame and designer goods could never substitute for the satisfaction of real work, the stability of a home paid for, the honor of independence. Meanwhile, back at my house, peace settled like a soft blanket. Mint green walls glowed under morning sunlight, Henry's photo radiated warmth, and the air was free from tension. The home I had once tiptoed through, fearful of disturbing their fabricated world, now breathed again with life that was mine to enjoy. I reveled in simple pleasures, brewing my morning tea without fear of interruption, tending my garden with the calm attention it deserved, savoring quiet afternoons with a book, listening to classical music that filled the rooms without complaint. At 70, I had discovered a renewed freedom, a joy that came from honoring my own boundaries and refusing to be diminished by the manipulation of others. The lessons of those 8 months, grief, patience, kindness, and ultimately firm resolve, had crystallized into wisdom. I had learned that love without limits is dangerous, that generosity misapplied becomes a tool for exploitation, and that the courage to say no, even when painful, can save both the giver and the receiver.
3 weeks before Thanksgiving, I received a call. It was Owen. His voice, once commanding, was now stripped of bravado, replaced by something I hadn't heard in years. Humility. "Mom, would you come for dinner?" he asked. Thanksgiving. I almost declined, remembering the stress, the exhaustion, and the manipulation. But something in his tone told me that lessons had been learned, that respect and responsibility had finally been recognized. When I arrived, Their home was modest, mismatched yet clean and real. No extravagance, no illusions, just honest effort. Owen looked leaner, his face marked by the work he had done. Naomi's hair was pulled back, no makeup, no filters, no pretense. The table held a turkey, slightly dry, mashed potatoes lumpy, green beans overcooked, yet it was perfect in its imperfection. Every bite was a testament to honest labor and accountability. Owen looked me in the eye, his voice trembling slightly. "Thank you for kicking us out," he said. Naomi squeezed my hand firmly. "If you hadn't done that," Owen continued, "we would still be drowning in debt and pretending to be people we aren't. That push, it saved us." I felt tears prick my eyes. At last, they understood the value of boundaries, the necessity of independence, the power of consequence. I looked at them across the modest table, at the genuine effort in their eyes, and felt a profound sense of closure. For years, I had equated love with self-sacrifice, shrinking myself to ensure their comfort, excusing their entitlement, tolerating their disregard. But this moment, this simple, honest meal, was proof that true love is not enabling. It is guiding, teaching, and sometimes firmly saying no. After dinner, we lingered in the warm glow of the evening, sharing stories of small victories and lessons learned. Owen admitted, almost sheepishly, that the Bali retreat and designer indulgences had been foolish, an escape from reality. Naomi, her hands now calloused from real work, admitted she had underestimated the value of ordinary effort, the satisfaction of contributing meaningfully. They laughed at their past arrogance, a laughter that tempered by humility, a laughter that felt real. Driving home later, I reflected on the transformation, not only theirs, but mine. I had regained my home, my peace, and most importantly, my self-respect. The locks on the doors, the mint green walls, the quiet hum of normal life. It was a reclamation of everything I had lost while accommodating those who took advantage of my love. I had learned that patience and kindness are virtues, but they are not weakness. Boundaries protect not just oneself, but those we care about. Without them, love can become a tool for exploitation. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, Dolores and I flew to Italy. The trip was a gift I had long postponed for myself. Florence, Venice, the art, the pasta, the laughter. It was a celebration of freedom, of living fully at 70. For the first time in decades, I traveled without guilt, without responsibility pressing down like a weight. I reveled in the joy of my own choices, the satisfaction of reclaiming my life.
Meanwhile, back in the United States, Owen and Naomi confronted reality. The luxury lifestyle evaporated. The Chanel bag was sold, the Bali retreat canceled, and they embraced jobs that demanded effort, patience, and persistence. Owen's hands, once soft from office life, were now strong and capable, earning every dollar with honest work. Naomi's nights on her feet at the hotel were long and tiring, but they were hers, earned and real. They discovered independence, humility, and the dignity that comes from self-reliance. Years of love, compromise, and silence had culminated in a powerful lesson. Love without boundaries is erosion. By reclaiming my home, my dignity, and my peace, I had not only saved myself, but given my son the opportunity to grow into the man he needed to be. Growth cannot be forced. It cannot be sheltered from consequence. Sometimes the most profound act of love is stepping back, holding the line, and letting reality teach the lessons we cannot teach by handholding. As I sat in my quiet mint green bedroom that night, sipping tea and watching the moon rise over my small, paid-off corner of the world, I felt complete. I was 70, free and alive, not for anyone else, but but for myself. Sometimes saving someone means letting them fall. And sometimes the greatest act of love is saying no. If this story touched you, remember your own strength. Respect your boundaries, honor your time, and cherish your peace. Love is powerful, but only when it uplifts, never when it diminishes.